Hey again, guys. Today we're going to take a look at how to solve multiplication equations. Again, very similar to what we've been doing with solving addition and subtraction, just trying a new operation now. So your term you need to know here is our division property of equality. And again, it says the same thing that our other two did. I can divide whatever I want from one side of an equation. As long as I do the same thing to the other side, it'll keep it balanced or make it a true statement. So again, what are our two rules for solving equations? We need to keep it balanced. That's what the properties that we've been talking about tell us. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. My statement is true. My equation is balanced. We're golden. And we're isolating the variable. That's how we know what the variable is. By getting it by itself, it tells us what it's equal to. So we'll take a look at some examples here as well. And again, remember, now that we're using variables, we're not using the x times sign. We're just, we can write it right next to the variable to say that it's multiplication, or we can use a dot, or we can use parentheses, but we're not going to use the x because we would get very confused with our variables. So here I have 4, I'm multiplying it by x. How am I going to undo multiplication? What is the inverse property of multiplication? Yes, division. So if I divide this side by 4, those cancel out. Anything divided by itself is 1, which means I'm left with 1x, which is what I want. Divide the other side by 4 as well. And I find that x is equal to 31. And again, I can go back and check. You can use your calculators to check, that's fine. 31 times 4 gives me 124, so I know that it checks out. So you can always take it, plug it back in, and know that you have the right answer. If you look at problem number 2, this is something that we talked about in an earlier video as well. I have like terms over here. The first thing I need to do is combine my like terms, then I can solve my equation. So 5s plus 1 more s gives me 6s, or 6 times s, which is equal to negative 48. So how am I going to get s by itself? I need to undo my multiplication, so I'm going to divide by 6. That isolates my variable. My s is now by itself. Negative 48 divided by 6. Well, 48 divided by 6 is 8. There's one negative sign, which is an odd number. If there's an odd number of negative signs, my answer is negative. So s is equal to negative 8. And again, we could go back, we could plug it in, we could check to make sure that it's right. All right, let's take a look at this one here. Again, this one's pretty straightforward. Sometimes the variable's on the other side. Don't let it confuse you if it's flip-flopped. Some kids don't like it on this side. This is the exact same thing as writing it this way. Doesn't matter which way you write it, they're equal no matter which side it's on. So again, how am I going to get my variable by itself? I need to undo my multiplication. I'm going to undo that by dividing. If I divided this side by negative 3, I also need to divide this side by negative 3. So here, those are going to cancel out. I'm left with y. 96 divided by 3 gives me 32. One negative sign, my answer is negative. Over here again, you'll notice I need to combine my like terms. However, on the other side, I also need to combine my like terms as well. Simplify before I can solve. So I have 6z plus z, which gives me 7z's. Remember, there's an implied 1 there. Here I've got negative 29 minus 13. Remember, we're going to change this by adding our additive inverse. So now I'm adding integers with the same sign, which means I'm going to add them together and keep the sign. So they're both negative. My answer will be negative. 29 plus 13 gives me 42. Now I have a simple one-step equation. 7 times c is equal to negative 42. I'm going to undo my multiplication by dividing. Since I've divided one side by 7, I need to do the same thing to the other side. When I divide 42 by 7, I wind up with 6. There's one negative sign, so it's a negative 6. Again, we can always go back, plug it in, check our answers to make sure that we're right. If you have any questions, you can post them in your comments or bring them to class tomorrow. Always feel free to go back, rewatch the videos, pause it, slow down, do them again. Make sure that you get the concepts. Have a good night, and I will see you guys tomorrow.